All right, ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Today we're going to tackle something I think we all could use a little more of, a little help with. Persuasion.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, it's a good one, right?
Yeah.
So we've got excerpts from this article. It's called 5 Ways to Become the Most Persuasive Person in the Room. And it is, let me tell you, it's packed with really good, really usable insights.
It's a good goal to have.
It is a good goal. I mean, who doesn't want to be more persuasive?
Right.
I mean, whether it's at work, in your personal life, or just like, winning an argument online.
Yeah.
Which I love to do.
Who doesn't?
Right.
Yeah, persuasion. I mean, it's such a powerful tool when you think about it. It's understanding people, what makes them tick, and then using that ethically, of course.
Right.
To connect with them on a deeper level.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Ethically.
Yeah.
So, all right. The first point in this article that really caught my eye, I think is really interesting, and it's about moving beyond just giving orders and instead explaining the why behind your requests. So they use this great example of telling your team, okay, everybody needs to be in the office on Thursdays.
Right.
Like, that's it. That's the mandate.
You must.
You must
Be here.
But instead explaining the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, and talking about the value, like maybe we can all brainstorm together in person.
Yeah.
There's that creative energy that flows when everybody's in the same room.
Right.
Maybe mention we're also going to have a team lunch that day. Or, maybe there's a fun happy hour afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you're kind of, it almost tricks you to being like, oh, I want to be there for that.
Right. It does. It
Yeah.
does. Instead of being like, ugh, I have to go into the office. It's like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Exactly. And you feel like you're part of it, too. You're part of that decision-making process.
It's not just like, because I said so.
Right. Exactly. And studies have shown that when people understand the reasons, like the rationale behind requests, they're way more likely to cooperate.
Right.
It's not about obedience. It's about understanding and mutual benefit.
That makes me think about all the times when I've tried to convince my friends to try a new restaurant. And if I just list all the dishes, it never works.
No.
But if I tell them about the incredible atmosphere or the chef has this really inspiring story.
Yeah.
They suddenly want to go.
Yes, that's a perfect example.
Right.
It is, because you're not just giving information. You're giving them a narrative that appeals to their emotions and their desires.
Right.
Totally.
So I want everybody to think about that in their own lives, you know. How could you rephrase, a demand or request to make it more persuasive? What's the why behind it?
Yeah.
And you might be surprised at how much more effective you can be.
I think so, too.
Okay, so the next point the article hits on is, and this one's interesting too, it's all about the power of brevity.
Okay.
So it argues that using short, impactful words can actually be more persuasive and memorable than complex language.
Interesting.
It makes me think about all those iconic slogans,
Yeah.
that just stick in your head, just do it.
Oh, of course. Classic.
Think different. I mean, they're so simple, but they're so powerful.
They are. And it's really fascinating how our brains latch onto that concise phrasing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a cognitive reason for it.
Yeah.
Those short words, those phrases are easier to process. They're easier to remember.
Right.
And that means they have a greater impact on our thoughts and our actions.
Right. So it's not about dumbing things down.
Right.
It's about making your message clear,
You know,
easy to digest.
Yeah. And think about some of the most memorable speeches in history.
Yeah.
They often use that simple language to evoke emotion, to inspire.
I'm thinking about wartime speeches or, speeches during, big movements.
Exactly.
They're not using big flowery language.
Right.
It's very, to the point.
Yeah, powerful.
Powerful. Exactly. And this is making me rethink how I write emails now.
Really?
I'm guilty of over-explaining sometimes.
Well, think of it this way. When you are concise, you're respecting people's time.
Oh, that's a good point.
And their attention.
Right.
You're giving them what they need, and you're making it easy. Easy to understand and remember.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are some of your favorite examples of persuasive brevity?
Oh, gosh, there are so many.
Slogans or quotes that just,
But one that always comes to mind is, I have a dream.
Oh, yeah.
It's 3 simple words, but they carry so much weight, so much emotion. It perfectly encapsulated Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision.
Right.
And it still inspires us decades later.
Decades later, yeah.
And it's a testament to the power of the right words used sparingly.
Yes. All right. On to the next point from the article. This one I think is kind of cool because it digs into, like, it's subtle, but it's the powerful difference between using we versus you language.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So the article suggests that, like, replacing you statements with we statements, it creates, like, this camaraderie and shared purpose.
Yeah.
And makes people more receptive to your ideas.
That makes sense.
So instead of saying you need to hit your targets,
Right.
you say we need to hit our targets. It seems so small.
It's so subtle, but it has, I think, a profound psychological effect.
Right.
Because when you say we, you're inviting them to join your team, essentially.
Yeah.
You're sharing that responsibility.
Yeah, like we're in this together.
Exactly. We're in this together. Let's collaborate. Let's do this. And it can make all the difference in getting people on board with your ideas.
It shifts the dynamic.
Yes, it does.
You know, away from like a boss, employee.
Authority figure.
Yeah.
So like partnership. And, you know, it's not about manipulation. It's about creating that unity,
Right.
a shared purpose.
Yeah.
And think about how effective that is in a work setting, right?
Yeah.
If the leader's constantly saying, you need to do this,
Right.
you need to do that, it creates a divide.
Yes.
But when they say we, it brings everyone together
Yeah.
and encourages that collaboration.
This makes me think about like group projects back in school.
Uh-huh.
You know, the ones that worked the best were always the ones where everybody felt like we're all contributing.
Together.
Yeah, together. You know, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And that feeling is so motivating.
It is.
That shared ownership, you know, collective achievement, it's really powerful. And it all starts with the language that we use.
It does. It does. You know, and it's funny how these small tweaks in language can have such a big impact on like how we perceive things.
Absolutely.
It really highlights like the subtle psychology at play here.
It does. And the more we understand these little nuances, the more effective we can be in communicating and connecting with others.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so the next point the article makes is about tailoring your approach to your audience.
Uh-huh.
And it talks about how, you know, sometimes a data-driven argument is more effective, and sometimes a personal anecdote might resonate more.
I see. So it's like choosing the right tool for the job.
Right, exactly.
You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb.
Right, exactly.
Same thing here. You need to pick the right approach that best suits the situation and the audience.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all.
It's not, no. And the article, it cites this interesting research from Reddit's Change My View forum.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it found that, and this is kind of counterintuitive, analytical arguments, so data-driven, were actually more persuasive than emotional appeals.
Really?
Especially when it came to skeptical audiences.
That's interesting. You would think, you know, in today's world, everybody's so driven by their feelings that appealing to emotions would work better.
It is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But it makes sense when you think about it. When you're dealing with somebody skeptical, a well-reasoned argument backed by evidence can be more disarming.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like you're meeting them where they are
Yeah.
and appealing to that rational side.
So you got to understand what motivates your audience.
Right, exactly.
Some people, logic and evidence.
Yeah.
For people, you know, they want the stories, the emotional connections.
Totally. It's like reading the room.
Yeah.
So, you know, for instance, if you're trying to convince your boss to give you a raise, coming armed with data about your performance, you know, and industry benchmarks,
Right.
that might be more effective than just saying, hey, I deserve more money.
Right. Right. Hard numbers can be very persuasive.
They can. But there are definitely situations where emotions are key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like if you're trying to raise money for a charity,
Right.
telling a compelling story about the people you're helping, that's going to be more impactful than just throwing statistics at people.
It's about knowing when to appeal to the head and when to appeal to the heart.
Exactly.
Like that. So as we're navigating the world and trying to be more persuasive, we need to become like masters of observation.
I like that.
You know, what kind of approach is going to resonate with this person? Are they analytical?
Right.
Are they emotional? You know, it's a lot to consider.
It is. And that brings us to the final point in the article, which is all about ethos, credibility.
Oh, yes.
So we talked about, you know, logos, pathos, ethos, the 3 pillars of persuasion.
Right.
But the article really emphasizes how crucial that ethos piece is.
Right, because it's not just what you say.
It's not. It's who you are, how you present yourself.
It's about building trust.
Absolutely.
Establishing yourself as like a credible source.
Exactly. People are more likely to be persuaded by someone they see as knowledgeable, as trustworthy.
Right. And real-world experience plays a huge role in that.
Huge role.
I mean, they say you can't teach experience.
You can't.
Having a track record of success in a particular area, it gives your words more weight.
For sure. I mean, think about it. Like if you were looking for advice on starting a business,
Yeah.
you'd be more inclined to listen to someone who had actually built and sold multiple companies
Right.
than somebody who just read books about it.
Right.
Their experience lends them credibility.
It makes me think about, those times when I've had to give presentations at work.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can weave in, anecdotes from past projects, it instantly boosts my credibility.
Sure.
My recommendations become more persuasive.
Of course, because you're showing them you've been there, you've done that.
Right.
You've learned those lessons.
It's like I'm not just talking the talk, I've walked the walk.
Exactly.
And, this makes me think about, the whole influencer marketing trend.
Yeah.
Right. People trust those recommendations from people they see as, experts, authorities.
It's all about aligning yourself with people who have that credibility.
Right.
And leveraging their influence to amplify your message.
But it's not just about, name dropping or boasting about your accomplishments.
Yeah.
It's about being genuine,
No.
letting your experience speak for itself.
Authenticity is key
Yeah.
because people can spot a phony.
Oh, yeah.
True credibility comes from that genuine expertise and that willingness to share in a way that's helpful, in a way that's engaging.
It's about being relatable.
Relatable, approachable.
Even if you are, an expert in your field.
For sure.
Yeah. This all reminds me of something I read recently about the importance of storytelling in persuasion.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I love a good story.
Me too.
But how does that tie into everything we've been talking about?
Well, stories have this incredible power to captivate our attention and to make information memorable. When you can weave your message into a narrative that's compelling, it becomes relatable, it becomes engaging,
Right.
and it just sticks with people.
It's like facts tell, but stories sell.
Exactly.
Right. Instead of just presenting the dry information,
Right.
you're creating an experience for the audience.
Exactly. And when you do that, you're tapping into that emotional side of persuasion.
Right.
You're making people feel something, which can be so much more impactful than just appealing to their logic.
So it's not just about presenting a list of facts and figures.
It's not.
You got to craft that narrative that resonates with people.
Yeah. And that's where the authenticity comes back into play.
Right.
The most compelling stories are those that come from a genuine place of experience and emotion.
Right. So we want to be truly persuasive.
We're going to become master storytellers.
Master storytellers. You got to weave our messages into these narratives that captivate, that inspire, and ultimately persuade.
And that's a skill that anyone can develop.
Yes.
With practice, with intentionality.
Yeah. It makes me think about, all the amazing TED Talks I've watched. The ones that really stick with me are the ones that tell a great story.
The best speakers understand that. They get it.
Yeah.
And they use it to connect with their audiences.
Right, on a deeper, more emotional level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this art of persuasion, I want to leave you with this thought. So think about the most persuasive people that you've met in your life.
Yeah.
What is it about them that makes them so effective? Is it charisma? Is it their logic? Their storytelling ability?
I think it often just comes down to their ability to connect with people
Yeah.
on a genuine level.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not just trying to win an argument or push their agenda.
Right.
They're genuinely interested in understanding other perspectives,
Yeah.
in finding that common ground.
It's like they're having a conversation, not delivering a lecture.
Exactly.
They're listening as much as they're talking.
And they're looking for ways to, build bridges, not walls.
I love that. Build bridges, not walls.
Right.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to be vulnerable either.
Right.
They share their own experiences,
Right.
their stories.
Yeah.
And it makes them relatable, human.
Right. They're not trying to be perfect. They're just being themselves.
Exactly.
And I think that authenticity is so powerful.
It is.
It just makes you want to trust them,
Yeah.
and listen to what they have to say.
It's not about manipulation. It's about connection.
Connection. Exactly. It's interesting to think about how persuasion plays out in different contexts.
Right.
I mean, we've been talking about it in a general sense, but, it's something we encounter every day
Oh, for sure.
in our personal lives, our professional lives.
Absolutely. I mean, from, negotiating a salary
Yeah.
to convincing your partner to try a new restaurant.
Right.
Persuasion is a constant in human interaction. It is. It is. And the more we understand these nuances,
Right.
the better equipped we are to kind of navigate those interactions successfully.
Absolutely. And think about how persuasion is used in marketing and advertising. I mean,
Yeah.
companies are constantly trying to persuade us
All the time.
to buy their products,
Yeah.
use their services.
Right. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It is.
Built on these principles of persuasion.
Yes.
I mean, they use everything from celebrity endorsements to emotional storytelling to like subliminal messaging
Oh, yeah.
to influence our choices.
Yeah. It's everywhere. And you know what? It's not always a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, persuasion can be used for good as well.
Right.
Think about social marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
That are trying to raise awareness about important issues,
Uh-huh.
encourage positive behavioral change.
Yeah, like those campaigns that encourage people to recycle
Exactly.
or to donate to charity.
Yeah.
They're using these persuasive techniques
Right.
to appeal to our values,
To get us to act.
to take action.
It's a reminder that persuasion really is a tool.
It is.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or
Yeah.
for,
For not so good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It all depends on the intention behind it.
Right.
So I think as we become more aware of the persuasive techniques being used all around us,
Yeah.
we can become more discerning consumers,
Yes.
more conscious participants in the persuasive process.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing when we're being persuaded
Yeah.
and asking ourselves, do I agree with this message?
Right.
Am I being manipulated?
Yeah.
Or am I being genuinely informed and inspired?
Informed, inspired.
It's about being critical thinkers
It is.
and not just blindly accepting everything that we're told.
Absolutely.
And it's also about using our own persuasive powers ethically, responsibly.
Yeah.
If we're going to try to influence others,
Right.
let's do it in a way that's authentic,
Yeah.
that's respectful.
And ultimately beneficial to everybody involved.
I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's a great point.
Yeah. Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive on the art of persuasion, I want to encourage you all to keep exploring this topic.
Yeah.
Read some books, listen to other podcasts,
Right. Observe
Observe, yeah.
those techniques.
The techniques being used around you.
Yeah.
And most importantly, practice.
Yes. Practice those skills.
Practice your own persuasive skills.
Absolutely. And remember, persuasion, it's not about tricking people.
Right.
It's not about manipulation. It's about connecting with people,
Yeah.
understanding their needs, and presenting your ideas in a way that resonates with them.
Right.
It's about building bridges, fostering collaboration,
Yeah.
and ultimately,
Yeah.
making the world a more persuasive and harmonious place.
That is a great note to end on.
I think so too.
Thanks for joining us on this persuasive journey.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Keep those minds engaged.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.